The crisp air bit at her cheeks as Arya stood on the edge of the cliff, the horizon unfurling before her like an artist's canvas, rich with hues of amber and sapphire. Beneath her, the churning sea roared, waves crashing against the jagged rocks, sending sprays of salt water that danced in the wind. She inhaled deeply, the scent of brine and wildflowers mingling together, igniting a flicker of courage in her chest. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, her heart racing, each pulse echoing the rhythmic thrum of her determination. With a leap, she launched herself into the abyss, the world spinning into a kaleidoscope of colors. Wind whipped through her hair, sharp and exhilarating, as she spiraled downward, the ground rushing up to meet her. For one suspended moment, she felt weightless, a defiance of gravity that mirrored her struggle against the labels that had bound her. Muggle-born, outsider, never enough. A cry escaped her lips, a mixture of terror and exhilaration as she spread her arms wide, embracing the freedom that whispered promises of something greater. "Look at me now," she shouted into the void, the sound swallowed by the roar of the ocean, yet resonating within. Her like a battle cry, both triumphant and terrifying in its uncharted possibilities. The door slammed against the wall, a resonating crack that sliced through the tense air, and Maria stood there, her breath hitching as a storm brewed in her chest. "You can't just walk in here like you own the place, Jake." The scent of rain-soaked earth wafted through the open window, mingling with the metallic tang of her frustration as he leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips. His dark hair, tousled from the wind, contrasted sharply with the flickering overhead light, casting shadows that danced around them like ghosts from the past. "I own more of this town than you think," he replied coolly, his voice a low rumble that sent shivers down her spine. She clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms, fighting the urge to throw something, anything, at him. Memories of their laughter, their shared secrets now felt like shards of glass, sharp and painful. Outside, thunder rumbled ominously, echoing her rising heartbeat. Each beat a reminder of the fracture that had formed between them, raw and exposed, as an unspoken truth hung heavily in the air, threatening to break them both. As dawn's first light broke over the turrets and spires of Hogwarts, the castle shimmered like a jewel against the deep blue sky, mist curling protectively around its ancient stones. Golden rays spilled through arched windows, igniting the great hall with a warm, ethereal glow. The long tables set with an array of shimmering dishes that danced in the light, whispering secrets of feasts yet to come. A distant echo of laughter floated from the Gryffindor common room, where a few early risers huddled by the fire, their faces illuminated by flickering flames, the air thick with the scent of pumpkin pasties and freshly brewed tea. "I swear the Sorting Hat will sing again this year," a boy exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with mischief, as his friend shot him a look of mock horror. Not that song again. Outside, the forbidden forest loomed like a guardian, its dark silhouettes breathing life into tales of adventure, while the Quidditch pitch lay in a dewy embrace, waiting for the thrill of the chase that would soon ignite the morning air. All around, magic thrummed, palpable and alive, as if the very stones were whispering the stories of generations past, weaving a tapestry of hope and wonder, inviting the new day to unfurl its endless possibilities. Leela stood at the edge of the Quidditch pitch, her heart thundering like the wings of a startled flock of owls, the vast green expanse stretching before her, shimmering under the midday sun. The scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the crisp autumn air, filling her lungs with a heady mix of exhilaration and anxiety. She could hear the distant chatter of her classmates, their laughter ringing out like silver bells, but it felt like an alien symphony, a world where she struggled to find her rhythm. "You've got this, Lila," she whispered to herself, gripping her broomstick like a lifeline, its smooth wood warm from the sun. As she stepped onto the pitch, the cool breeze tousled her hair, and she caught sight of the towering goalposts, their white paint gleaming like beacons of possibility. Her stomach knotted as she glimpsed the older students soaring above her, gliding through the air with ease, their shouts of triumph echoing overhead. "Just keep your balance," her older brother had advised, his voice a comforting echo in her mind. But as her class mounted their brooms, a wave of doubt washed over her. She hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down, before finally taking a deep breath and stepping forward, ready to take flight. The chatter swirled around Lila like the autumn leaves tumbling outside, vibrant yet weightless, each word a reminder of her growing unease. "Did you see the new nimbus? They say it's the fastest." Becca's voice pierced the air, her laughter bubbling like a brook, while Felix mimicked a daring swoop, arms outstretched, his eyes gleaming with reckless delight. Lila shifted in her seat, her palms clammy against the rough wood of the desk, heart thudding like a war drum in her chest. What if she fell? What if she actually took to the sky and felt nothing but emptiness? The exhilaration everyone spoke of fading into a void of fear. "Come on, Lila, you can't be scared. You'll love it." Ella's encouraging tone barely reached her, muffled by the thumping in her ears that drowned out the laughter and excitement. In the flickering candlelight, shadows danced on the walls, mirroring the turmoil inside her. The smell of polished wood and faintly burnt parchment filled her senses, grounding her as she forced a smile, though inside her stomach twisted, aching like a caged bird longing for flight, but terrified of the open sky. "Today's lesson involves basic takeoffs and landings," the instructor declared, his voice rising against the low hum of excitement pulsing through the class. The scent of aviation fuel lingered in the air, mingling with the crispness of freshly polished cockpit controls, sending a thrill spiraling through my stomach. As I gripped the yoke, the smooth, cool metal felt alive beneath my fingers, vibrating slightly in anticipation. "Remember, it's all about the rhythm," he continued, eyes sparkling like dancing with the sky. Outside, the sun glinted off the runway. a golden ribbon stretching into the azure expanse, while engines roared to life, their deep growls resonating like a heartbeat beneath my seat. My heart raced, a tempest of exhilaration and anxiety, as I concentrated on the instructor's voice, his calm presence anchoring me. Focus on the horizon, he urged, a steady reminder to breathe, to let go of the trepidation coiling in my chest. With a deep breath, I pushed the throttle forward, feeling the aircraft surge beneath me, the world falling away as we soared into the vast, inviting embrace of the sky. "You've got this," he cheered, and in that moment I felt the thrill of freedom, a symphony of adrenaline and trust weaving through the air around us. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue over the sprawling grounds of the academy, where laughter and exhilaration danced on the breeze, intertwining with the rustle of leaves. Lila stood at the edge of the training field, her heart a heavy stone in her chest, as she watched her classmates mount their brooms with the graceful ease of swans taking flight, their faces lit with joy. "Watch this, Lila," a voice called out, a burst of laughter following as a duo soared effortlessly into the air, the wind tousling their hair. The sight made her stomach churn, the exhilaration of their freedom a stark contrast to the stillness that wrapped around her like a thick fog. She took a step forward, the grass cool beneath her feet, but the broom in her hands felt like a weighty anchor, pulling her deeper into solitude. Each attempt to lift it, each flicker of hope was overshadowed by the fear of failure, the echoes of past attempts haunting her thoughts. "Come on, just give it a try," a friend encouraged. But the words felt like distant thunder, lost amidst a cacophony of cheers and the whoosh of wind, while Lila remained an island, isolated in a sea of soaring dreams. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the laughter of her friends. But Lila's focus was entirely on the polished handle of her broomstick, its surface gleaming in the afternoon sun. "Up just like we practiced," she commanded, her voice a mix of determination and rising panic. But instead of soaring upward, the broom jerked violently beneath her, bucking like a wild stallion. "No, no, no," she shrieked, gripping it tighter, her heart racing as it spun sideways, a blur of green grass and sky. With a sudden, jarring motion, she was unceremoniously hurled off, her body tumbling through the air, limbs flailing helplessly. A thud echoed as she landed, the cool blades of grass cushioning her fall, yet the embarrassment burned hotter than the sun overhead. "You all right, Lila?" Sierra called from the sidelines, stifling a giggle, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Lila groaned, rubbing her shoulder where the impact had sent a jolt through her bones. "I'm fine," she muttered, the sting of humiliation flooding her cheeks. But as she glanced up at the sky, a wild grin began to break across her face. "Just testing gravity, that's all." The classroom buzzed with a faint scent of chalk, a biting reminder of the place she loathed most, where laughter danced cruelly around her like a swarm of angry bees. Lila huddled over her desk, her fingers tracing the worn edges of her textbook, each page rippling under the weight of her isolation. "Look at her," a voice hissed from across the room, stifled giggles erupting like popcorn in a microwave, punctuated by the sharp, derisive tone of Jessica, the self-proclaimed queen of their class. Do you think she even knows what a social life is? The words pricked her like 1,000 needles, dragging her deeper into the chasm of her inadequacy. She wanted to shrink, to vanish into the grey walls that enclosed her, her heart drumming a frantic rhythm in her chest, a metronome of despair. Outside, the sun glinted brightly, mocking her with its warmth, while inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed ominously overhead. Just ignore them, she whispered to herself, though her reflection in the window told a different story. Eyes cast down, lips pressed into a thin line, a mask of resolve barely holding back a tide of tears. In that moment, Lila felt invisible, an unwilling spectre haunting the halls of a life she desperately wished to belong to. As the whispers of the great hall faded into the background, a cloud of uncertainty hung over her like a damp fog, the weight of judgment heavy in the air. Tessa's gaze dropped to the polished wooden floor, the reflections of flickering candles dancing at her feet. Just as her heart began to sink, she felt a gentle presence beside her. "Hey, don't let them get to you." Jamie's voice broke through the noise, warm and steady, like a flickering torch in the dark. The Gryffindor student, with her wild curls and freckles that splashed across her nose, extended a hand, her palm open and inviting. "You've got this," she continued, her eyes brimming with genuine encouragement. "We're all a bit of a mess sometimes, right?" Tessa looked up, studying Jamie's unwavering smile, the sparkle of courage igniting something deep within her. The scent of pumpkin pasties wafted through the hall, mingling with the laughter of friends, a comforting reminder that she wasn't alone in her struggles. With a deep breath, she intertwined her fingers with Jamie's, feeling the warmth of solidarity surge through her. "Okay, let's do this," she whispered, heart racing, as the two of them stepped forward together into the bright, bustling chaos of the day ahead. Lila's cheeks flushed a deep crimson as she felt Jamie's gaze on her, his talented hands deftly crafting the intricate design they had been assigned. The scent of fresh paint, a tangy mix of must and creativity, hung in the air, wrapping around her like an unwelcome embrace. She could barely concentrate, the brush trembling in her grasp, each stroke a reminder of her struggles. "I've got it, really," she murmured, avoiding his earnest eyes, the warmth of his presence both comforting and disconcerting. Jamie leaned closer, the soft rustle of his shirt breaking the tense silence. "Lila, it's okay to ask for help. I don't mind." But her heart raced, a stubborn flutter of pride rising in her throat as she swiped the brush across the canvas with a hasty flourish, smudging the colors together in a chaotic swirl. "I just need to..." She paused, her voice hitching, the raw vulnerability threatening to spill over. The laughter of classmates echoed outside, carefree and radiant, while she stood amid the mess of her creation, battling the urge to reach out, to let someone in. Really, Jamie, just let me try, she insisted, her voice barely above a whisper as she focused on the canvas, the rough texture mocking her insecurities. As the instructor's voice droned on, Lila shifted in her seat, her palms clammy against the cool, polished wood of the desk. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and chalk dust, mingling with the faint aroma of burnt coffee wafting from the back of the room. Now, let's explore the nuances of dynamic shift, he declared, his confidence a sharp contrast to the gnawing unease swelling within her. Lila clenched her jaw, the words swirling like smoke in her mind, elusive and insurmountable. Is anyone else lost? She whispered to the girl beside her, who merely shrugged, eyes glazed over with confusion. Lila's heart raced, each beat echoing her rising despair. As the instructor scribbled elaborate diagrams on the board, lines intertwining like a web she couldn't untangle. It's all in the flow, he continued, glancing back at the class, his gaze sweeping across them. But Lila felt as if she were trapped under a spotlight, exposed and vulnerable. Her breath quickened, a lump forming in her throat as she fought to grasp the advanced techniques that danced just beyond her reach, the fear of failure curling around her like a vice, squeezing tighter with each passing moment. The coffee shop buzzed with the soft hum of chatter and the rich aroma of roasted beans, yet Lila felt a world apart. Her fingers tracing the rim of her steaming mug as she leaned closer to Mia, the weight of unspoken fears pressing heavily on her chest. What if I just didn't go? She whispered, a tremor lacing her voice, her eyes darting towards the window where a distant plane sliced through an expanse of azure, a symbol of her anxiety soaring high above. Mia, her brow furrowed in concern, reached across the table, her hand warm and steady like an anchor. You can't just give up on your dream, Lila, she urged, her tone both gentle and firm, a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Lila could feel the heat pooling in her stomach, an unsettling mix of dread and desire as she recalled the last flight, the turbulence that rattled her bones, the suffocating grip of panic that had rendered her breathless. What if I lose control again? She confessed, her heart pounding, each syllable a small surrender to vulnerability. Mia squeezed her hand, her eyes steady and fierce. You're stronger than you think. Just imagine that view. It's worth it. The weight of Lila's fear lingered, but within Mia's warmth, a flicker of hope began to ignite, fragile yet undeniable. The stage lights flickered overhead, casting a warm glow across the polished wooden floor, where Lila stood, trembling slightly, her breath catching in her throat. Just think about the magic, Mia urged, her voice a gentle lighthouse in Lila's storm of self-doubt, her own eyes sparkling with an infectious enthusiasm. You have it in you, I promise. The scent of fresh paint and old wood mingled in the air, mingling with the faint echo of laughter from behind the curtain, a reminder of her dreams waiting just beyond reach. Lila closed her eyes, feeling the cool breeze from the open window ruffle her hair, the soft sounds of jazz filtering through, wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. Remember that last time? Mia continued, stepping closer, the warmth radiating from her presence, steadying Lila's racing heart. You lit up the whole room. With a deep breath, Lila opened her eyes, the world sharpening into focus, her pulse echoing in her ears. The rhythm of the music surged within her, a sweet promise of freedom to dance, to be herself, to let the magic emerge. She nodded, a flicker of determination igniting within her. Okay, let's do this. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows across the worn pages of her textbook. Lila's fingers absently tracing the inked diagrams as the muffled sounds of laughter and excitement seeped through the heavy wooden door. "Did you see the way Dawkins caught that last snitch?" one voice exclaimed, buoyant with enthusiasm, while another chimed in, "He's going to wipe the floor with Ravenclaw next week." The words pierced through Lila's concentration, igniting a spark of longing within her. She glanced up, her heart racing at the thought of the Quidditch match, the vibrant colors of the house banners whipping through the air, the exhilarating rush of the wind against her face as she soared high above the pitch, adrenaline thrumming through her veins. Outside, the familiar echo of brooms whooshing by punctuated the night, a reminder of the camaraderie she felt just weeks ago when laughter echoed alongside shouts of triumph. Yet here she sat, cocooned in the silence of the library, her resolve faltering as her classmates' voices weaved stories of glory and rivalry. "I swear, if we lose again," the first voice trailed off, and Lila's heart sank, tethered between her studies and the magnetic pull of the game, a battlefield of dreams she yearned to join. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden glow that danced across the grassy field where Lila stood, heart racing, the cool breeze brushing against her flushed cheeks. She could hear the laughter of children echoing in the air, their joyous shouts mingling with the soft rustle of leaves. "Come on, Lila, just one more time," Mia called out, her voice bursting with infectious excitement, her arms wide open, inviting her back into the skies they once shared. Lila inhaled deeply, the scent of warm earth and blooming wildflowers filling her lungs, igniting a spark of determination. The wooden glider, weathered yet sturdy, waited patiently beside her, its faded colors whispering promises of adventures yet to come. What if I crash again?" she murmured, the words barely escaping her lips, tinged with uncertainty. "But what if you fly?" Mia countered, eyes gleaming with unwavering faith, her smile a beacon in the twilight. The warmth of her friend's encouragement wrapped around Lila like a comforting embrace, coaxing her fears into submission. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, fingers brushing against the cool, smooth surface of the glider, and as adrenaline surged within her, a thrill surged through her veins. This time, it would be different. The sun hung high in the azure sky, casting a warm glow over the courtyard as Lila stepped into the sprawling expanse, her heart quickening at the sight before her. Jamie was at the center, a whirlwind of energy, his movements sharp and fluid, like a dancer lost in a rhythm only he could hear. She could practically feel the thrum of determination emanating from him, each kick and spin a testament to countless hours. Spent honing his craft, the scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the faintest hint of sweat, invigorating and raw, as Lila leaned against the sun-warmed stone wall, unable to tear her gaze away. "Focus, Jamie! You've got this!" a voice called out, slicing through the midday calm. But Jamie's concentration never wavered. His brow furrowed in concentration, sweat beading along his temples. But each shot he executed was punctuated by a small, triumphant smile, a reflection of his growing confidence. Lila felt a swell of admiration, a mix of envy and inspiration as he spun effortlessly, the sunlight catching his tousled hair, illuminating the fierce joy in his eyes. She could almost hear the whispers of their classmates in the background, a melodic hum of encouragement, and for a moment, the world around her faded, leaving only the intoxicating allure of passion and pursuit lingering in the air. Lila leaned against the weathered wooden railing, her heart a tempest of emotions, watching Jamie as he effortlessly blended into the crowd, laughter spilling forth like a melody that danced through the humid summer air. The sun hung low, casting a golden hue that seemed to halo around him, illuminating his carefree spirit, while Lila, in her corner, felt a tightening knot of envy twist in her chest. Every chuckle, every casual wave sent ripples of admiration through her, even as the sharp pang of jealousy gnawed at her insides. "Why can't I be like that?" she muttered under her breath, fingers tapping nervously on the worn surface. Jamie caught her eye then, flashing a grin, his blue eyes sparkling with mischief, as if he could somehow sense the internal battle raging within her. "Hey, Lila, come join us," he called, his voice warm and inviting, weaving through the thick air like a sweet invitation. She hesitated, the weight of unspoken words pressing heavily on her tongue, and for a moment, as laughter echoed around her, she felt suspended in time, torn between the desperate longing for connection and the harsh reality of her own insecurities. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow across the empty gymnasium, as Jamie leaned against the cool metal of the bleachers, her heart racing at the thought of Lila joining her for practice. The faint scent of sweat mingled with polished wood, a familiar comfort that eased her nerves just a bit. She could hear the rhythmic thuds of basketballs bouncing in the distance, punctuated by the occasional laughter from teammates milling about. With a quick glance at her phone, she caught Lila drifting toward her, a hint of uncertainty in her deep brown eyes. "Hey, I know this is kind of random," Jamie ventured, her voice barely rising above the echoes of the gym, "but do you want to practice with me just for fun?" Lila's lips parted, surprise etching her features as she hesitated, then broke into a tentative smile. "Really? You want me to?" "Absolutely," Jamie replied, feeling a rush of warmth blossom in her chest. "I could use the company." As they moved to the court, the chill of the polished floor seeped through Jamie's sneakers, and the world outside faded to a whisper. With each dribble of the ball, the air crackled with the thrill of possibility. The space between them charged with unspoken words and the thrill of newfound friendship. Leela's heart raced. The dim light of the room casting playful shadows on the faded wallpaper, remnants of a vibrant past now dulled by time. She glanced at the window, where raindrops danced against the glass, each one a tiny messenger of the storm brewing outside, mirroring the turmoil inside her. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath, the weight of uncertainty tugging at her like a heavy cloak. Her friend, Mia, stood firm, determination etched across her features, a flicker of unwavering faith in her eyes. "Sometimes you have to leap," Mia urged, a hint of urgency threading through her words. "What's the worst that could happen?" Lila bit her lip, the taste of fear mixing with a strange, tantalizing thrill, a flicker of hope igniting within her chest. "Okay," she finally murmured, her voice infused with a mix of doubt and daring. "I'll try." As she stepped closer, the warmth of Mia's hand enveloped hers, grounding her as the storm outside swelled, the rain pouring down with a ferocity that mirrored the tempest of her emotions. Lila inhaled deeply, the scent of wet earth and impending adventure swirling around her, a heady concoction that pushed her forward into the unknown. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the weathered gym floor, its warm glow filtering through the cracked windows. As Lila stood on the edge of the mat, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm in her chest. "Just breathe, just breathe," she murmured to herself, her palms slick with sweat, the scent of chalk hanging in the air like an unfulfilled promise. Jamie, with an effortless grace, soared through the air, his silhouette cutting a clean arc against the fading light, laughter bubbling from his lips like a song in full bloom. He landed with a flourish, the soft thud of his shoes echoing off the walls, while Lila's feet felt heavy as if rooted in quicksand. "Come on, Lila, you can do it," he called, his voice a beacon of encouragement, but doubt coiled tightly around her, whispering insidiously that she would never rise like that. Channeling her longing, she took a deep breath and sprang forward, the world blurring around her, but her body betrayed her, gravity's grip pulling her back down with a thump. She landed with a soft gasp, cheeks flushed, while Jamie rushed over, eyes sparkling. "You almost had it," he grinned, and for a moment her heart fluttered wildly, holding on to the flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, one day she would glide too. "Trust yourself." "Leela," Jamie urged, her voice a soothing balm amidst the frantic rhythm of their bustling dance studio. The scent of polished wood mingled with the faint tang of sweat in the air, every note of music vibrating through the floor beneath their feet. Leela's heart raced, her palms slick with anxiety, as she glanced into the mirror, reflecting a girl who felt anything but graceful. "You have all the tools, all the training," Jamie continued, stepping closer, her own eyes gleaming with conviction. "It's not just about the steps, it's about believing you can own every single one of them. The warmth of Jamie's presence wrapped around Lila, a comforting embrace against her self-doubt. She could almost hear the whispers of the music echoing the rhythm of her pulse. But what if I mess up? Lila's voice quavered, a fragile thread in the air. Jamie chuckled softly, the sound like a bright note piercing through fog. Then you make it your own, just like we practiced. Confidence isn't perfection. It's the courage to dance even when you stumble. In that moment, as the melody swelled and filled the room, Lila took a deep breath, letting the fluttering of her heart settle just a little into a rhythm of trust. Lila clenched her fists at her sides, the bitter taste of envy rising like bile in her throat as Jamie glided effortlessly through the air, their laughter echoing like a haunting melody in her ears. The sun cast a golden hue over the sprawling park, illuminating the joy etched on Jamie's face, while shadows loomed over Lila, a constant reminder of her own limitations. Come on, Lila, just try it, Jamie called out, their voice tinged with excitement, but all Lila could hear was the relentless drumbeat of self-doubt pounding in her chest. The swing creaked under her weight, the metallic scent of rust mingling with the fresh-cut grass beneath her feet, grounding her in a moment that felt both too real and painfully surreal. She glanced upwards, squinting as Jamie looped and soared, their silhouette a graceful arch against the cerulean sky. And for a fleeting moment she imagined herself up there, free and unburdened. But the dream shattered with the next swing of her legs, the rush of wind too foreign, too far from her reach. What's the point? She muttered under her breath. The words, a heavy stone lodged in her throat, while Jamie landed softly, oblivious to the tempest brewing inside her friend. Jamie leaned closer, the warmth of her breath mingling with the rich aroma of brewing coffee, a comforting backdrop to their shared moment. You know, she began, her voice barely above a whisper, when I first tried to fit in, I felt like I was wearing someone else's skin, tight and suffocating. Her eyes, a deep shade of green, sparkled with unshed tears as she recounted the isolation of those early days. The lunchroom filled with laughter while she sat alone, picking at her salad, the crunch echoing like a distant memory of joy. It was like I was watching a movie, but I couldn't find the script, she continued, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup, lost in the whirl of her thoughts. Outside, the rain began to patter against the window, soft and soothing, a rhythm that mirrored her heartbeat. I thought I'd never belong, but then... She paused, swallowing the lump in her throat. I found people who understood, like you. The sincerity in her gaze reached deep into the other's heart, forging a bridge of understanding, unspoken yet profoundly felt, as warmth spread between them, igniting a flicker of hope amidst their shared vulnerabilities. Lila stood at the edge of the bustling cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the sweet scent of pastries, wrapping around her like a warm hug. She watched Jamie animatedly recount the struggles and victories of his journey, his eyes sparkling with an unquenchable brightness that seemed to penetrate the grey fog of her own doubts. You just have to take that first step, he insisted, his voice a blend of determination and hope, his hands gesturing as if painting a vivid picture of possibility. Leela bit her lip, the taste of sugar lingering on her tongue as she felt a sudden rush of longing, the kind that settled deep in her chest, a gentle tug pulling her toward change. She wanted to step into that world of resilience, where each stumble was a lesson, where fear transformed into fuel. The laughter of friends surrounded her, but in that moment they faded into the background, leaving Jamie's unwavering belief echoing in her mind. What if I could? She whispered to herself, her heart pounding in response to the questioned excitement fluttering like the wings of a caged bird, yearning for freedom. The sun hung low in the sky, spilling golden light across the old wooden floor of the dojo, where the soft scent of polished cedar mingled with the earthy aroma of worn mats. Okay, let's start with the basics, Mia said, her voice steady, filled with a warmth that wrapped around them like a familiar blanket. She stood, feet shoulder-thin apart, her posture exuding calm authority as she demonstrated the first stance. The muted sounds of their sneakers squeaking against the mat punctuated the stillness, each slight movement igniting a spark of determination in their hearts. As they mirrored her, focusing intently on their balance, the world outside faded into a distant hum, leaving only the rhythmic breathing and their quiet grunts of effort. Feel the ground beneath you, she encouraged, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. Let it hold you. They wobbled at first, laughter bubbling up as hands shot out instinctively to steady themselves, but with each attempt, they began to find their center, rooted and strong. A palpable sense of camaraderie formed in the air, as if the very essence of their shared struggle connected them. See, you're getting it, Mia cheered, her voice a boy, lifting their spirits even higher. And in that moment, balance became more than a physical skill. It transformed into a shared journey, a dance of trust and vulnerability beneath the flickering shadows. The world below her blurred like a watercolor painting as Lila clutched the worn bristles of her broom, her heart thundering in her chest, a wild mix of fear and exhilaration coursing through her veins. Just a little longer, she whispered to herself, the wind whipping through her hair, cool and crisp, like a promise of freedom. With a deep breath, she leaned forward, her fingers tightening around the handle, and in that fleeting moment, the ground seemed to vanish beneath her, her laughter rising like a song into the vast cerulean sky. For a heartbeat, just a heartbeat, she was airborne. The ground far below, a patchwork of green and brown, the sound of her own heartbeat drowning out the distant chatter of the others, their voices fading into the wind. I did it! I really did it, she shouted, a mixture of disbelief and triumph spilling from her lips, her spirit soaring higher than her body. But as gravity beckoned her back, pulling her down like an anchor, she felt a bittersweet twinge in her chest, the exhilaration mingling with a sharp reminder of her uncertain footing. Just as quickly as it had come, the moment slipped away, leaving her breathless, a smile still dancing on her lips, The wind rushed past Lila's ears, a wild symphony of freedom, as she arced through the air, weightless and electric, her heart pounding with exhilaration. Below her, the world shrank into a patchwork quilt of vibrant greens and browns. The distant hum of voices and laughter blurred into an indistinct melody. Her laughter mingled with the wind, a giddy sound that seemed both foreign and familiar, echoing her childhood dreams of soaring like the birds. "Just a little longer," she shouted, her voice barely a whisper against the roaring breeze. The rush of adrenaline coursed through her veins, igniting a fire that hadn't flickered in years. She caught sight of the ground rushing up beneath her, the moment frozen in time. And in that fleeting heartbeat, every fear evaporated. This was life, raw and unfiltered. And all she could think was, again, I want to feel this again. As she grappled with the exhilarating blend of fear and joy, she could almost taste the salt of the clouds on her lips. Time slowed, and Lila's heart thrummed with the promise of the next leap, a whisper of wind urging her forward into the crisp blue sky, where her spirit soared, unbound and yearning. "Look, Lila," Jamie said, her voice a soothing balm against the chaotic swirl of doubt that clouded Lila's mind. They sat cross-legged in the worn grass of the park, the sun dipping low, casting a golden glow that danced through the branches overhead. "Instead of fixating on the finish line, let's celebrate these little wins," she urged, her hands gesturing animatedly, as if wrapping the invisible victories around them like a warm blanket. Leela's brow furrowed, the weight of her aspirations heavy on her chest, but Jamie's infectious smile was irresistible, radiant and full of promise. "Remember when you managed to finish that whole chapter?" Jamie continued, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "That's a huge deal. You didn't just write words, you created a world." The scent of blooming jasmine wafted through the air, mingling with the laughter of children nearby. And Lila felt a gentle tug at her heart. "Yeah, but..." she started, but Jamie cut her off, the urgency in her voice growing. "No buts! Every step counts. Today you wrote a sentence that made you smile. Tomorrow it might be a paragraph. Just think about that." Lila glanced at the sun, glowing like the promise of a new day, and for the first time in weeks, hope flickered in her chest, small yet steadfast. With the sun slipping below the horizon, casting long shadows across the wooden floor of her dimly lit room, Lila cradled her violin against her shoulder, the cool wood comforting in its familiarity. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the faint scent of rosin, mingling with the musty pages of her music sheets, and with a deep, steadying breath, drew her bow across the strings. The initial screech sent a jolt through her heart, but she pressed on, her brow furrowing with determination. "Just one more time," she whispered to herself, the words a soft mantra, each note slowly molding into something sweeter, more melodic than before. Minutes melted into hours, the world outside fading into a blur of twilight. Practiced the same passage, the repetition becoming a dance between frustration and exhilaration. Her fingers, once hesitant, began to glide more confidently, each movement infused with a growing sense of mastery. "That's it. Just like that," she murmured during a rare moment of clarity, her heart racing as she hit the final note, a resonance that hung in the air like an unspoken promise. In that dim sanctuary, amidst the flickering candlelight, Lila felt the stirrings of something profound, a connection to music that coursed through her veins, igniting hope and a fierce determination to strive even harder. The wind whipped through Lila's hair, a cool breath infusing her lungs as she steadied herself on the shimmering board. Heart pounding, she took a deep breath, feeling the tremor of her fingers wrap around the controls, the familiar buzz of excitement tingling in her arms. A hushed anticipation enveloped the practice field, her friends' voices fading into a background hum as she focused on the horizon, a blur of blue and gold beckoning her forward. With a gentle push, she launched herself into the air, the board humming beneath her feet, a pulse that synced with her rapidly beating heart. For a brief moment, every ounce of doubt vanished, and she felt weightless, free, gliding through the air without a hint of wobble, the ground far below forgotten. "You're flying, Leela!" shouted Max, his voice a mixture of awe and disbelief, breaking her concentration just enough to send a thrill racing through her. The sunlight glittered off the leaves below, the world sprawling out like a treasure map, and she couldn't help but laugh, a giddy sound carried by the wind. This was it. This was what she had been waiting for, a moment of transcendence where fear melted away, leaving only the exhilaration of flight. As she gathered her books, the soft rustle of pages mingled with the distant laughter echoing through the sunlit hallway. But it was the sudden, sharp voice that cut through the air, halting her heart. "Hey! Look at the little freshman." The laughter rippled like a wave, and she glanced up, her breath hitching as a group of older students sauntered past, their backpacks slung carelessly over one shoulder, confidence radiating from them like sunlight. She stiffened, her fingers tightening around the spine of her favorite novel, its cover worn from countless readings, a small comfort in a world that felt overwhelmingly vast. "Better hurry up, kiddo, or you'll get lost in the shuffle," one of the boys called, smirking, his dark hair falling over his forehead as he elbowed his friends and they erupted into a chorus of snickers. Her cheeks burned, a fiery blush creeping up beneath the surface, as she fought the urge to shrink back, to disappear into the shadows of the lockers lining the corridor. Taking a deep breath, she repressed the tremor in her hands, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than a reflection of her heart, whispering to herself, "Just keep walking, just keep walking," as she stepped past them, every footfall echoing doubt, yet yearning for the courage to be seen. The cafeteria buzzed with laughter and the clatter of trays. But Jamie's heart thundered in her chest, drowning out the noise as she faced the intimidating circle of older students. Their sneers cut through her like shards of glass, aimed squarely at Lila, who sat hunched over her lunch, the light in her eyes dimmed by their taunts. "You think you're so special, Lila," one of them mocked, flicking a grape that splattered against her cheek. Jamie felt a surge of heat rise in her cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from a fierce protectiveness that ignited a fire in her belly. She stepped forward, her palms clammy but her voice steady. "Leave her alone! You think making fun of her makes you better? It doesn't. It just makes you a bully." The laughter faltered. The older students momentarily caught off guard by Jamie's unexpected boldness. The air thickened with tension, palpable and electric, as Jamie squared her shoulders, her heart racing. "You don't get to treat her like this," she continued, each word dripping with conviction. "Just because you're older doesn't mean you're stronger." And in that moment, she wasn't just defending Lila, she was reclaiming her own courage, her voice ringing out against the tide of cruelty that had long gone unchallenged. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden rays through the leaves of the old oak tree where Lila sat with Jamie on the weathered bench, its wood rough beneath her fingers. A gentle breeze tousled her hair, carrying with it the scent of blooming lilacs from the nearby garden, a reminder of the beauty around her. "You've got this," Jamie said softly, their voice a balm against her swirling doubts, the warmth of their presence wrapping around her like a favorite sweater. Leela glanced sideways, catching the earnestness in Jamie's eyes, and her heart fluttered with gratitude, a soft hum of reassurance echoing in her chest. She felt the weight of her insecurities lift, replaced by a burgeoning sense of possibility as she breathed in the fragrant air, suddenly aware of the strength that had always resided within her. "I really want to try," she whispered, her voice trembling but laced with newfound resolve, the words spilling forth like petals caught in a spring breeze. Jamie smiled, and in that moment, Lila felt a spark ignite. Trust blossoming not just in Jamie's unwavering support, but in herself, a flicker of courage, daring her to step boldly into the world waiting just beyond the threshold of their sanctuary. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the grassy field as laughter erupted from the two girls, their faces flushed with excitement. "Okay, last one to the tree has to do 10 cartwheels," Mia shouted, her blue headband slipping slightly as she sprinted ahead, the cool, crisp air filling her lungs. Sophie, ever the competitor, pushed herself harder, muscles straining as she raced, the rough texture of the grass tickling her bare feet. Their breaths mingled, quick and ragged, with the scent of freshly mowed grass wafting around them, creating a palpable buzz of energy. When they reached the old oak, they doubled over in giggles, hands on their knees, hearts pounding, the thrill of the challenge still pulsing through their veins. "You totally cheated," Sophie teased, nudging Mia with her shoulder, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "All right, next challenge. Who can balance on one leg while reciting the alphabet backwards?" The challenge hung in the air like a promise, and as they steadied themselves, the world around them faded, each letter spilling out like a secret, their camaraderie turning every misstep into another fit of laughter, weaving a tapestry of joy and friendship against the backdrop of an endless sky. With a burst of laughter, Lila soared higher, the wind whistling around her like a playful whisper, each gust tugging at her hair and bringing a sparkle to her eyes. She tilted her broom, feeling the familiar tingle of anticipation as she executed a sharp turn, the ground spinning beneath her in a dizzying blur. "Look, Mum, I can do it!" she shouted, her voice bubbling over with joy, the exhilaration of newfound control coursing through her veins. The clouds, fluffy and bright like cotton candy, brushed against her cheeks as she dipped low, then ascended with a flick of her wrist, gracefully performing a series of minor aerial tricks, each one more daring than the last. The thrill of defiance danced in her heart, a sweet melody that drowned out any lingering doubts. As she twisted and twirled, the world below seemed to pause, the vibrant colors of the autumn leaves blending into a tapestry of fire and gold. "Just like a bird," she breathed, feeling the rush of freedom in her chest, each maneuver a declaration, each flip a step towards mastering the sky. Leela felt invincible, cradled by the vastness around her, her laughter echoing like music, a vibrant anthem of triumph over gravity. The crack of the gym's polished floor echoed as Leela hit it hard. Her body sprawled like a broken marionette, breaths coming in sharp staccato bursts. The scent of sweat and disinfectant mingled in the air, a stark reminder of the hours spent perfecting her craft. And today, glimmers of hope turned to shards of despair. She pushed herself up, wincing as the sting radiated through her knee, her heart racing from the shock more than the pain. "You okay?" her teammate called, concern knitting her brow, but Lila only nodded, forcing a smile that crumbled the moment Mia looked away. The vibrant colors of the gym blurred around her, the bright banners of past victories now taunting her, shadows of her dreams flickering like distant stars. "I shouldn't have tried that," she muttered to herself, her voice barely above a whisper, as if admitting failure could make it real. She felt the weight of disappointment settle like a heavy quilt on her shoulders, covering her in a chilling embrace. With shaky legs, she stood, the echoes of her classmates' laughter and determination washing over her like a relentless tide, and she took a deep breath, steeling herself against the swelling tide of doubt, whispering, "Next time, I'll get it right." The crisp autumn air felt alive as Jamie leaned against the rough bark of an old oak, its leaves crackling underfoot like brittle memories. "You know," she began, her voice steady despite the ghosts of her past swirling around them, "there was a time when I thought I'd never get back up." A gust of wind tousled her hair, and she tucked a strand behind her ear, her eyes shining with the depth of her experiences. "Freshman year, I fell hard, literally and figuratively, on the track, spraining my ankle just before the meet. I heard the snap, and in that moment, everything went dark. She glanced at her friend, their eyes locked in understanding. But I couldn't let that be the end. Every day I'd sit on the sidelines, watching and wishing. But I got stronger. The drive to be back out there, to feel the rush of the wind as I sprinted, it fueled me. The faint scent of damp leaves mingled with the warmth of her story, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. When I finally returned to the track, every step was a reminder. Resilience isn't just bouncing back, it's about soaring higher. And with that, she took a deep breath as if tasting victory once more. Lila sank onto the mossy banks of the glimmering brook. The midday sun filtering through the emerald canopy above, casting dappled shadows that danced upon her skin. The air was thick with the sweet scent of wild flowers, their vibrant hues a stark contrast to the deep green surrounding her, and she found herself absent-mindedly plucking a daisy, its petals soft against her fingertips. "Why do I love magic so much?" she murmured into the gentle breeze, as if the wind could offer her an answer. Memories flooded her mind, laughter echoing in enchanted woods, the crackle of energy during spellcasting, the way her heart raced when the impossible became reality. She could almost hear her mentor's voice, raspy yet warm, saying, "Magic is not just about the tricks, my dear. It's about the wonder it ignites within you." The brook babbled in agreement, each ripple a reminder of fleeting moments transformed into something extraordinary. Closing her eyes, she felt the pulse of the earth beneath her, a reminder that magic was not just in the grand displays, but in the whispers of nature, in the everyday miracles that filled her soul with awe. With a deep breath, she smiled, knowing that her journey was only just beginning. The scent of rain-soaked earth filled the air as Lila dug through the attic, the wooden floorboards creaking beneath her weight, a distant echo of a time long past. Her fingers brushed against the aged spine of a dusty book, its cover adorned with intricate gold lettering, the title nearly worn away by years of neglect. Heart racing, she pulled it closer. The musty aroma wafting into her memories, vivid images of moonlit nights, whispered spells, and the crackle of wand tips meeting the air. "Remember the witch who turned the prince into a frog," she murmured to herself, a giggle escaping her lips, the sound bubbling like a brook. Just then, a soft breeze whispered through the attic window, dancing around her like the ghostly laughter of childhood friends, rekindling the magic she thought lost. She could almost see the swirling colors of potions and the flicker of candlelight, feel the thrill of adventure coursing through her veins, a thrilling warmth igniting her heart. What if, she pondered aloud, her voice trembling with anticipation, what if I could pen my own tales? With a new fire in her soul, Leela clutched the book to her chest, ready to breathe life into forgotten dreams, to weave new worlds from the threads of her imagination. The gym hummed with a familiar rhythm, the sharp crack of a basketball meeting the polished wood floor echoing like a heartbeat. And as she stepped through the heavy door, a rush of warm air enveloped her, filled with the scent of sweat and determination. Each breath tasted of grit and resolve, and a smile tugged at the corners of her lips, a rare bloom that blossomed amid the shadows of self-doubt. She could almost hear the whispers of her past failures, but they faded behind the fierce beat of her pulse, a drum urging her forward. "Let's go," she called out, her voice breaking the silence, pulling the attention of her teammates, their excited chatter igniting her spirit. With every dribble, each shot that arched gracefully toward the net, she felt her body responding, muscles rippling with a newfound strength, the weight of limitations lifting as if carried away by the wind, swirling through the open windows. "That's it. Just like that," her coach's voice rang out, filled with a pride that sent a shiver down her spine. The world outside faded away. All that mattered was the court, the rhythm of her heart, and the intoxicating promise of overcoming, of soaring beyond what she once thought possible. Leela stood beneath a sprawling oak, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and nerves, the late afternoon sun casting playful shadows on the grass. "Watch this, Jamie," she called out, her voice ringing with confidence. She took a deep breath, the scent of freshly cut grass filling her lungs, and with a flick of her wrist, she unleashed the rope. It sailed through the air, a gleaming arc of potential, before landing in a neat loop at her feet. Jamie's eyes widened, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face, and Lila's heart soared, the thrill of victory igniting her spirit. "How did you—" he began, his mouth agape, but she was already moving on, stepping lightly into the next part of her routine, the rhythm of her body aligning with the pulsing beat in her chest. The loop took on a life of its own, swirling and twisting as if it were dancing to a melody only Lila could hear. Each movement felt electric, a rush of adrenaline and joy. As Jamie leaned in, captivated, his earlier skepticism melting away. "Do it again," he urged, laughter bubbling forth, and Lila grinned, the world around her fading as she immersed herself in the magic of the moment, that simple loop connecting them in a shared thrill of wonder. The air was electric with laughter, the scent of warm popcorn mingling with the crispness of the autumn evening. As Lila stood at the edge of the makeshift stage, her heart pounding in rhythm with the joyous cheers of her friends. "You did it!" Zoe shouted, her voice cutting through the jubilant chaos, her eyes shining with pride. Leela could barely contain her beaming smile, the warmth of their encouragement wrapping around her like a soft blanket. The vibrant lights of the festival flickered overhead, casting playful shadows on their jubilant faces, while the distant sound of music pulsed through the air, a backdrop to their celebration. "You've come so far," Max called out, clapping her on the back, his laughter infectious, sending ripples of joy through the group. They gathered around her, a circle of unwavering support, their voices blending into a harmonious melody filled with the sweetness of friendship. Each cheer felt like a gentle nudge, urging her forward, igniting a spark of confidence that had long been buried under layers of doubt. Lila closed her eyes for a brief moment, absorbing the warmth of their camaraderie, the shared hopes that intertwined like the golden leaves swirling in the wind as she took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever came next. The sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over the weathered pitch where Jamie stood, her broom cradled in one hand like a long-lost friend. "Can you imagine it, Lila?" she said, her eyes sparkling as if they held the very stars above. "The rush of wind against your face, the crowd roaring, all eyes on you as you dive for the snitch. The scent of freshly mown grass mingled with the distant echoes of laughter, and Lila could almost feel the thrill of soaring through the air, the vibrant colors of her team's robes whipping around her. "You have to try out for the team," Jamie urged, her voice rising with excitement. "We could be unstoppable together." Lila felt a flutter in her chest, a mix of fear and exhilaration, the kind of feeling that made her heart race, that made her doubt and desire collide like two bludgers in a fierce game. "What if I'm terrible?" she whispered, the words barely escaping as the cool evening breeze tousled her hair. Jamie stepped closer, her breath visible in the dusk. "You won't be. And even if you are, we'll laugh about it," she grinned, the warmth in her voice igniting a spark of courage in Lila's heart, painting her dreams in colors bolder than she'd ever imagined. Lila stood backstage, the heavy curtain brushing against her shoulder as she peered into the dimly lit auditorium, her heart racing in time with the low thrum of the bass resonating from the speakers. The air was thick with the sense of polished wood and fresh paint, mingling with the lingering notes of anticipation that danced around her like a mischievous breeze. She flexed her fingers, feeling the cool metal of her flute, an old friend that had whispered secrets to her in countless practice sessions, yet today it felt like a portal to uncharted territories. "You've got this," she whispered to herself, the words barely escaping her lips, swallowed by the distant chatter of an eager audience. With each breath, excitement surged through her veins, battling with the flickering shadows of doubt that loomed just outside her focus. The stage lights flickered on, bathing the room in a golden glow, and she could almost hear her heartbeat echoing back, a reminder of her own vulnerability. "Just remember to breathe," she thought, closing her eyes for a brief moment, envisioning the tapestry of sound she would soon weave. With a final deep inhalation, she stepped out into the light, ready to transform her trepidation into a symphony of adventure as the world awaited her melody. The crisp air of Hogsmeade wrapped around Lila like a warm blanket, the scent of cinnamon and roasted chestnuts drifting from nearby stalls, creating a cozy cocoon of festivity. She leaned against a wooden railing, eyes sparkling as she whispered to Mia, "I want to travel, to see the northern lights, feel the chill in the air and watch the colors dance across the sky." The words tumbled out, mingling with the laughter and chatter of the bustling village, filling her heart with an intoxicating blend of hope and longing. Mia's gaze softened, her cheeks flushed from the cold, and she nodded, a smile breaking across her face. No, right there with you, soaking it all in, collecting stories like treasures. Leela's heart swelled at the thought, imagining their adventures, their laughter echoing in snow-capped mountains, the thrill of the unknown igniting their spirits. A flurry of snowflakes began to fall, swirling around them, and Leela caught one on her tongue, the brief chill igniting her senses. "When we do it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "it'll be magical." Mia raised an eyebrow playfully. "First, we conquer Hogsmeade hot chocolate, then the world." Their laughter mingled with the winter air, wrapping around them like the warmth of friendship, echoing dreams yet to come. "Mia, you have to believe me. I'll embarrass myself." Lila's voice wavered, the autumn breeze tousling her hair as they stood on the edge of the pitch, the vibrant green grass glistening under the fading sun. The distant sound of a quaffle hitting the wooden goalposts resonated through the air, filling Lila's heart with a mix of longing and dread. "Look around," Mia insisted, her eyes sparkling like the stars peeking through the clouds. "Everyone's nervous, but once you're up there, you'll feel it. The rush, the freedom. Just picture it, Lila, soaring through the sky, the wind whipping past you." She gestured dramatically, her arms outstretched as if she could conjure the image of Lila on a broomstick, flying high above the world, the cheers of their classmates roaring beneath her. "But what if I fall?" Lila whispered, biting her lip, feeling the weight of self-doubt pressing down like a heavy cloak. "Then you get back up and you try again," Mia replied fiercely, stepping closer, her breath warm and encouraging. "This is your moment. You can't let fear hold you back. You owe it to yourself to just try." The sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue on their faces, and for a fleeting moment, Lila felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. The gym echoed with the rhythmic thud of sneakers against polished wood, the air thick with the mingled sense of sweat and floor polish, and Lila could feel her heart hammering a staccato beat in her chest, drowning out the boisterous chatter of her teammates. She stood at the edge of the court, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the fabric of her jersey. The fabric familiar, yet suddenly foreign, the weight of expectation pressing down on her like an unwelcome shroud. "You got this, Lila," whispered a voice behind her, but it felt distant, as if muffled by the thick fog of doubt that swirled around her mind, obscuring the confident girl she usually recognized. She watched as her peers laughed and warmed up, their movements fluid, effortless, while her own limbs felt clumsy, unresponsive, her thoughts racing a frenzied spiral. What if I mess up? What if I don't belong here? A sharp whistle pierced the air, slicing through her apprehension like a knife, and everyone snapped into focus, their eyes glancing toward the coach. Lila took a deep breath, the metallic tang of fear mingling with the sweet hint of determination, her resolve teetering on the edge, ready to either push her forward or pull her into the shadows. Lila stood at the edge of the gym, her heart racing, each rhythmic thud of basketballs on polished wood echoing in her ears, the scent of sweat and determination heavy in the air. Older students, their laughter mingling with the sharp whistle of the coach, moved with a fluidity that seemed almost magical. They leapt and pivoted, effortlessly sinking shots from impossible angles. The sound of sneakers squeaking against the floor reverberated in her chest, a reminder of her own unsteady feet, and a pang of envy twisted within her. "You've got this, Lila," she whispered to herself, but the words barely broke the swell of doubt rising in her throat. A girl with braided hair executed a perfect layup, her confidence glowing like a beacon, while Lila fidgeted, clutching her water bottle like a lifeline. "Hey, don't just stand there," one of the seniors called, a teasing grin lighting up her face. "Join us. We won't bite." The invitation felt like warm sunlight breaking through her clouds of insecurity. Yet she shook her head, the heat of embarrassment flushing her cheeks. Could she really step onto that court where every player seemed to shine, their skills honed by years of practice, and not falter? The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the empty basketball court, the faint scent of sweat and polished wood lingering in the air. Jamie dribbled the ball, its rhythmic bounce echoing like a heartbeat, each thump a steady pulse of encouragement. Leela stood a few feet away, her brow furrowed in concentration, the tension coiling in. Her shoulders like a tightly wound spring. "You were amazing last week, Lila," Jamie said, stopping to catch her breath, her eyes bright with determination. "Let's practice together tomorrow, the day before tryouts. Just you and me, some shooting drills, maybe a scrimmage." Lila bit her lip, uncertainty clouding her expression, the weight of impending expectations pressing down on her. "But what if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough?" "Hey!" Jamie stepped closer, the warmth of camaraderie enveloping them. "We're in this together. Remember when you nailed that three-pointer at the last game? You can do this." The words hung in the air like the fading sunlight, vibrant and tinged with belief. Lila inhaled the cool evening breeze, feeling the knot in her chest begin to loosen, as the promise of tomorrow slipped softly into her heart, a beacon of hope illuminating the path ahead. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the field as Lila approached the edge of the wooden ramp, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. With the wind tousling her hair and the chatter of her teammates fading into a distant hue, she focused on the rhythm of her breath, drawing in the crisp, cool air, savoring the scent of freshly mown grass, mingling with the sweet, earthy aroma of summer. "You got this, Lila," her coach called out, his voice a beacon of support in the cacophony of adrenaline. She steadied herself, eyes locked on the horizon, a vast expanse of azure above her, where dreams mingled with reality. With a deep breath, she launched herself forward, the world blurring around her as she soared, weightless, exhilaration coursing through her veins like electricity. Time slowed, and for a fleeting moment, she felt untethered, free, as though she were dancing with the clouds. As she descended, her focus sharpened, each muscle alive with purpose. She spotted the ground rushing toward her. She spotted the ground rushing toward her. With practiced precision, she tucked her knees and landed softly, the impact sending a jolt of triumph through her body. "Yes, perfect," Lila shouted, laughter spilling from her lips as she glanced back at her coach, who wore a proud smile, the world suddenly feeling limitless, alive with possibility. The sun cast a golden hue over the forest clearing, illuminating the sweat-drenched strands of her hair that clung stubbornly to her forehead. Heart pounding like a drum in her chest, she stood tall among the whispering trees, a triumphant smile breaking across her face as she took in the remnants of the obstacle she'd just conquered. "I did it," she whispered to the wind, the words barely escaping her lips, yet reverberating within her like a joyous anthem. Each breath tasted sweet, laced with the scents of pine and damp earth, the very aroma of victory. Memories of doubt flickered in the corners of her mind, but they faded like mist under the sun's embrace. She had pushed through, fought against the whispers of inadequacy, and emerged stronger, more resolute. The world around her felt alive, vibrant. The chirping of birds and rustling of leaves became her applause. A symphony celebrating her small yet mighty triumph. "I can trust myself," she proclaimed, raising her chin, the breeze ruffling her clothes like an encouraging pat on the back. She could feel the pulse of her own capabilities thrumming beneath her skin, a tangible promise of what lay ahead, and for the first time in a long time, certainty washed over her, warm and reassuring. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a brilliant warmth that belied the chill gripping Lila's heart, each thud of her pulse echoing in her ears as she stood with her teammates on the pitch. The smell of freshly cut grass filled the air, mingling with the faint scent of sweat and determination, while the distant shouts of excited players punctuated the silence of their anxious huddle. Her fingers trembled, flexing and curling around the rough leather of the ball, a familiar comfort now turned foreign and daunting. "Just breathe, Lila," whispered Mia beside her, the words laced with an encouraging lilt that barely reached her ears. Lila forced a nod, her throat tight, visions of missed goals and judgmental eyes swirling in her mind like dark storm clouds. She glanced around, seeing others adjusting their shin guards, some bouncing on their toes, a few cracking jokes to mask their own fears. Each face mirrored her own turmoil, yet their laughter seemed to echo sweetly in contrast to her racing thoughts. "You've got this," she murmured to herself, but it felt more like a plea than a declaration as the whistle pierced the air, sharp and clear, shattering the fragile bubble of her anxiety, pushing her toward the boundary where her dreams awaited. The stage lights flickered, casting a warm golden glow over the polished wooden floor as Lila sat in the back row, her heart pounding in rhythm with the bass thumping from the speakers. She leaned forward, captivated, as Mia spun gracefully, her pirouettes effortless, a cascade of laughter and poise that drew gasps from the audience. The air was thick with the scent of fresh paint, and the distant echo of muffled applause, each clap reverberating like a heartbeat in her chest, quickening her pulse. Leela tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, her fingers trembling slightly, caught between admiration and self-doubt. "You can do it, Leela," whispered Clara from beside her. But the encouraging words felt like whispers drowned in a roaring sea of talent. Each smile, every triumphant leap, felt like a reminder of the chasm between her aspirations and reality. She could almost hear her own breath, shaky and uneven, drawing in the brilliance around her, yet she felt like an outsider peering into a world she desperately wanted to be part of. The music swelled, and with it, Lila's resolve flickered, both inspired by the beauty before and intimidated by the brilliance she knew she had yet to find within herself. When it's her turn, she mounts her broom with shaky confidence, the cool wood pressing against her palms as her heart thrums an anxious rhythm in her chest. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and wild flowers, a sharp contrast to the electric tension that crackles around her like the charged atmosphere before a storm. Her legs tremble slightly, swaying with the nervousness that clings to her like a shadow, but she forces herself to breathe deeply, in and out, as the sun dips low, casting a golden glow that wraps around her. "You've got this," she whispers to herself, the words tasting like hope on her tongue. As she lifts off, the ground falls away, and a rush of exhilaration mingles with fear, the wind whipping through her hair, filling her lungs with a wild freedom. Below, the spectators gasp, their faces a blur of excitement and awe, but all she can focus on is the way the broom responds to her touch, gliding through the air as if it were a part of her. "Look at her," someone shouts, but the sound is muffled, swallowed by the roaring wind that drowns out her doubts, her spirit soaring higher, higher, until the world below is just a patchwork of colors, and she's finally flying. Lila stands at the edge of the bustling courtyard, the vibrant colors of autumn leaves swirling around her like confetti, their crisp scent mingling with the warm aroma of spiced cider wafting from a nearby stand. She takes a deep breath, the cool air filling her lungs, and closes her eyes momentarily, letting Jamie's words echo in her mind. "Believe in yourself, Lila. You're stronger than you think." The affirmation hums within her, a gentle pulse of reassurance against the cacophony of laughter and chatter that surrounds her. A flicker of doubt threatens to snuff out the spark, but she squeezes her fists, feeling the rough fabric of her jacket against her palms, grounding herself in the moment. She opens her eyes, catching a glimpse of her reflection in the glass of a nearby cafe, her brow furrowed but a new light sparking in her hazel eyes. "You've got this," she whispers to herself, her voice barely rising above the noise. The sun breaks through the clouds, casting a warm glow on her face, illuminating not just her features, but the glimmer of determination forming in her heart. With a resolute nod, she steps forward, the crunch of leaves beneath her boots a melodious reminder that every step is a choice, a chance to embrace her own strength. The air was thick with anticipation, electric with the scent of sweat and the tang of metal from the training equipment as she steadied herself on the edge of the platform, heart racing like a caged bird. With a deep breath, she launched into the first maneuver, her body slicing effortlessly through the air, limbs perfectly synchronized, and the collective gasp from her peers felt like a wave crashing against her resolve. "Yes, go for it," a voice from the sidelines urged, a mixture of excitement and disbelief echoing in her ears. Each twist and turn unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance, the sunlight glinting off her determined expression, illuminating the fierce determination burning within her. As she landed with a soft thud, the ground vibrated with her impact, and she could feel the exhilaration coursing through her veins, the thrill of triumph mingling with the crisp autumn air. The instructors exchanged glances, their eyebrows raised in unison, nodding slowly, impressed by her precision and grace. "That was incredible," one instructor called out, his voice tinged with admiration, as her peers erupted into a chorus of cheers, their hands clapping, echoing the melody of her success. In that moment, she felt invincible, the weight of doubt lifting like a mist, replaced by the golden glow of achievement, bright and warm against her skin. Lila lands perfectly to a round of applause, a smile breaking on her face, the thrill of the moment surging through her like an electric current. The air is thick with the scent of fresh grass and the distant echo of laughter, the autumn sun casting warm golden rays that dance in her dark hair. She hears the delighted cheers of her friends, a tapestry of voices woven together, shouting her name, "Lila, Lila!" Each syllable wraps around her like a comforting embrace, grounding her in this joyous moment. As she straightens, heart racing, she catches the glint of admiration in her best friend Mia's eyes. The way they shine like stars, and it fills her with a sense of belonging. The weight of expectations and past doubts melt away, replaced by the buoyancy of triumph. "You did it. You really did it," Mia cries, leaping up to hug her tightly, their laughter mingling in the crisp air. Lila can feel the warmth radiating from the crowd, the excitement swirling around her like confetti, each cheer an affirmation of her hard work and determination. She gazes out at the sea of smiling faces, feeling an exhilarating sense of possibility, as if she's just touched the sky, and now the world is hers for the taking. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the worn-out field, its scent of freshly cut grass mingling with the lingering warmth of the afternoon. Lila's heart raced as she wiped the sweat from her brow, the adrenaline from tryouts still pulsing through her veins. She watched as her fellow teammates gathered in clusters, laughter and excited chatter filling the air like music. Suddenly, the familiar figure of Mia, the team captain, approached, a bright smile illuminating her face, a stark contrast to the sweat-soaked jerseys around them. "You've got real talent, Lila," she said, her voice warm, soothing, like a balm against Lila's anxiety. I saw how you handled that last drill. You've got some serious moves. Lila's stomach fluttered with a mix of pride and disbelief, the taste of dreams just within reach. The grass crunched beneath Mia's cleats as she stepped closer, her presence radiating confidence. We could really use someone like you on the team. What do you say? The world around Lila faded as she locked eyes with Mia, the captain's deep brown eyes glinting with possibility. I'd love that, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper, yet bursting with the promise of new beginnings, hope blooming in her chest. The sun poured through the gym's tall windows, casting golden patches on the polished hardwood floor. But Lila felt as if she were floating above it all, the world a blur of colors and sounds. Congratulations, Lila, you made the team. Coach Martinez's voice echoed like a distant melody, the words barely registering as her heart raced wildly in her chest. Disbelief surged through her, a tidal wave of emotion crashing against the sturdy walls of her carefully constructed hope. Lila blinked, her hands trembling at her sides, fingers itching to cradle the moment, to keep it safe. Around her, laughter and chatter erupted like fireworks, teammates engulfing each other in joyous embraces, but all she could hear was the rhythmic thump of her heart, each beat a reminder of the impossible dream that had just unfurled before her. Are you serious? She finally managed to stammer, the thrill dancing on her tongue. I really made it? The coach nodded, a warm smile illuminating her face, and in that instant the room spun with a dizzying mix of disbelief and pure, unadulterated happiness. Lila's laughter bubbled forth, bright and effervescent, as she was swept into a whirlwind of cheers, her fears dissolving like sugar in water, replaced by an exhilarating certainty. She belonged. Jamie wrapped her arms around her tightly, the warmth of their shared triumph enveloping them like a soft blanket. The sweet scent of freshly baked cookies filled the air, remnants of their marathon baking session that lingered in the cozy kitchen. We did it, didn't we? Jamie whispered, her voice thick with joy and disbelief, her breath brushing against Lila's ear like a gentle breeze. Lila nodded, her heart swelling with pride, the taste of victory still lingering on her tongue like a sprinkle of sugar she had just tasted. They pulled back, their eyes locking, filled with an unspoken understanding of the journey they had navigated, the late nights and the countless attempts that had led them to this moment. The kitchen was alive with the sounds of bubbling pots and the soft hum of their favorite playlist, but all Lila could hear was the rhythmic thump of her heart, a drumbeat echoing their shared resolve. Who? He said, his voice full of wrath. I couldn't have done it without you, Lila finally managed, her voice barely breaking the joyful silence as she wiped a stray flowery hand across her cheek, laughter spilling from her lips. Jamie grinned, and for that brief moment in the golden glow of the late afternoon sun, everything felt possible, every dream within reach. The roar of the engines faded into a harmonious hum, and as the plane soared above the clouds, Lila felt an exhilarating rush, a surge of freedom washing over her. She glanced round the cabin, where her teammates, each one a vibrant thread woven into the fabric of her new life, were laughing, their faces illuminated by the golden light streaming through the window. "Can you believe we did it?" Marco shouted, his grin infectious, as he raised a plastic cup filled with sparkling cider. Lila's heart swelled, a warmth spreading through her as she clinked her cup against his, the sound ringing like chimes in the warm air. The scent of sweet pastries from the snack cart filled her nostrils, mingling with the faint hint of ozone, while the soft fabric of the seat cradled her like a reassuring embrace. No longer tethered by the chains of her phobia, she reveled in the sense of belonging, feeling the weight of isolation lift, replaced by laughter and camaraderie. "Just look at us," Tara beamed, her eyes sparkling with joy. Lila nodded, her heart echoing in rhythm with the trust they had built, an unshakable bond forged in the fires of shared fears and triumphs. This was not just a team, it was family. The whistle blew sharply, slicing through the crisp morning air as Lila tightened her grip on her broom, heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and nerves. The emerald green pitch sprawled before her, glistening under the bright sun, the smell of freshly cut grass mingling with a faint tang of old leather from her gear. "Ready or not? Here we go," shouted Zara, the team captain, her voice ringing with infectious enthusiasm, igniting a fire in Lila's chest. As the players took off, a whirlwind of color and laughter, Lila hesitated, fear prickling at the edges of her excitement. But the moment she kicked off, the ground fell away beneath her, and the wind surged around her like a jubilant wave, filling her lungs with freedom. "Look out, Lila!" a voice called as a bludger whizzed past. Narrowly missing her shoulder, the thrill of narrowly escaping ignited her spirit, making her laugh despite the danger. She found her rhythm, weaving through her teammates with newfound confidence, every turn and dive a dance in the sky. "You've got this," shouted Zara, and Lila could feel the camaraderie swell around her, heart pounding, not just from the flight, but from the thrill of belonging. Quidditch was more than a game. It was a heartbeat that echoed in her chest, exhilarating and alive. The hume of the arena buzzed around Lila like a swarm of restless bees, each buzz a reminder of the eyes fixed on her, waiting, hoping. She tightened her grip on the cool, worn handle of Lile's. The bat, its familiar weight reassuring yet daunting, and cast a quick glance at her teammates' faces etched with anticipation, some murmuring strategies, others casting furtive glances her way, as if she were both the new star and the fragile glass ornament they were afraid to break. "You got this, Lila," whispered Mia, her voice barely rising above the cacophony, a blend of encouragement and pressure that wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. Lila felt the thrum of her pulse in her ears, the electric scent of popcorn and sweat mingling in the air, a bittersweet reminder of the stakes. The crowd roared, a tidal wave of noise crashing against her resolve, and she could almost taste the adrenaline, sharp and invigorating on her tongue. "Just breathe," she murmured to herself, closing her eyes for a fleeting second, the world fading away as she tried to summon the confidence that had carried her this far. But with every heartbeat, the weight of those expectations pressed down harder, a reminder that in this game, her moment was now or never. The whistle blew sharply, cutting through the crisp autumn air. As Lila stood at the edge of the field, her heart racing like a drum in her chest. The vibrant colors of the leaves danced around her, but their beauty offered little comfort. Her teammates moved in perfect harmony, weaving effortlessly across the grass while she stumbled, grappling with the rhythm of their unspoken connection. "Come on, Lila, you've got this," Sarah called, her voice a mix of encouragement and impatience, slicing through Lila's concentration. The smell of fresh-cut grass mingled with the sweet, earthy scent of damp soil, but all Lila could focus on was the weight of her clumsiness, each misplaced pass echoing in her mind like a cruel taunt. She could feel the heat creeping up her neck, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she fumbled the ball again, sending it skittering towards the sidelines. "I'm sorry," she shouted, the words escaping her lips before she could catch them, her breath quickening as she fought the urge to curl into herself. Lila watched her teammates exchange glances, some nodding in understanding, others with faint frustration, and in that moment she felt like an outsider in a world that was supposed to be hers. The air in the gym hummed with tension as players dribbled and dashed across. The polished floor, the scent of sweat, mingling with the faint aroma of popcorn wafting from the snack stand. Lila's heart raced, her palms clammy against the cool leather of the basketball. She could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on her, a heavy fog of doubt creeping in as she watched her teammates begin to falter, their movements losing synchronicity. Just then, Jamie stepped forward, his voice slicing through the chaos like a whistle blown at the start of a game. "Hey, Lila," he called out, his eyes steady and encouraging. "Remember, it's all about teamwork and communication." The clarity in his tone broke through her anxiety, grounding her amid the swirling noise. She caught the encouraging nods of her teammates, their faces a mix of determination and fatigue, and she inhaled deeply, the familiar sense anchoring her in the moment. "Right," she replied, a spark igniting in her chest. "Let's get in sync." The rhythm of their feet against the floor became a mantra, each pass and shout a note in an unfolding symphony, her pulse syncing with the beat of the game. Together, they moved like a well-oiled machine, Lila's doubts melting away as they communicated in a language beyond words, united in a common purpose. The rhythmic clatter of cleats against the weathered gym floor echoed like a heartbeat, a syncopated reminder that Lila was no longer an outsider. She laughed, a warm, genuine sound that spilled over the raucous energy of her teammates as they huddled around the water cooler, the tangy scent of sweat mingling with the fresh, crisp taste of lemonade. "Come on, Lila, try the new drill," shouted Margot, her sun-kissed hair bouncing with each enthusiastic leap. Lila hesitated. heart fluttering with both excitement and trepidation, but the welcoming glimmers in her teammate's eyes felt like an embrace. "You've got this," whispered Jonah, his voice a steady anchor amidst the whirl of commotion, and with a deep breath she stepped forward, feeling the coolness of the polished floor beneath her feet, grounding her. As they practiced, laughter surged through the air, punctuated by playful jabs and shared glances that spoke of camaraderie. The rhythm of their movements began to sync, the chaotic energy transforming into a harmonious dance. And for the first time, Lila felt the weight of loneliness lift, replaced by the exhilarating pulse of belonging, her smile brightening. The dim corners of the gym, the locker room buzzed with a mix of excitement and trepidation, the scent of sweat mingling with the sharp tang of antiseptic. Lila paced, her heart thundering against her ribcage, as if trying to escape the confines of her uniform. The chatter of her teammates, punctuated by nervous laughter and the occasional shout of encouragement, faded into a muffled echo as she focused on the rhythmic drumming of her pulse. "You good, Lila?" Sam's voice cut through the haze, concerned yet laced with a playful challenge. "You look like you're about to face a bear." She offered a weak smile, but inside, anxiety twisted like a coiled spring, tightening with each passing minute. The walls seemed to close in, fluorescent lights flickering above, amplifying the weight of expectation that hung heavy in the air. She could almost feel the rough texture of the court beneath her sneakers, hear the distant roar of an eager crowd, and the sharp whistle that would slice through her thoughts, signaling the start of it all. Lila inhaled deeply, filling her lungs with the familiar scent of liniment and ambition, reminding herself of every grueling practice that had and led her here. "Let's show 'em what we've got," she murmured, her voice steadier than she felt, determined to transform that raw surge of nerves into something powerful. The cafe hummed softly around them, the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee mingling with the sweet scent of pastries, but Lila's heart raced, drowning out the comforting buzz. She fidgeted with the edge of her napkin, her fingers trembling slightly as she leaned closer to Jamie, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I'm not good enough?" she murmured, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, reflecting the flickering candlelight on their table. Jamie, warm and steady as the sunlight streaming through the window, reached across the table, enveloping her hand in his. "Lila, you're capable of so much more than you realize," he replied, his tone gentle yet firm, the sound of his voice wrapping around her like a protective cocoon. She searched his eyes for reassurance, feeling the weight of her doubts pressing down on her chest, each worry a stone threatening to pull her under. "But what if I fail?" Lila pressed, her voice quivering with vulnerability. Jamie squeezed her hand, his grip reassuring. "Then you learn, you grow," he smiled softly, "and I'll be right here cheering you on. You've overcome so much already. Don't underestimate the power within you." As she met his unwavering gaze, a flicker of hope ignited within her, the warmth of his belief momentarily banishing the shadows of her fears. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden hues over the field, and Lila felt the heat seeping into her skin, a reminder of the stakes that loomed. She stood at the edge of the grass, the familiar scent of freshly cut turf mingling with the sharp tang of sweat, and watched as the other team executed their drills with precision, their laughter punctuating the air like distant thunder. Each thud of their cleats on the ground echoed in her chest, a rhythmic beat that made her pulse quicken, a mixture of excitement and anxiety, a brewing storm within. "Look at them," whispered Jenna, her teammate, just beside Leela, eyes wide with apprehension. "They look fierce." "Yeah, but fierce can be beat," Leela replied. Her voice trembled slightly. She clenched her fists, feeling the fabric of her jersey cling to her skin, a second layer of determination. The rival. Players were tall and muscular, their camaraderie palpable. But Lila focused on the flicker of doubt in their eyes, the fleeting moments when their laughter faded. Each cheer and shout only fueled her resolve, and as the whistle blew, signaling the start of the match, she inhaled sharply, a mix of anticipation and dread swirling within her, ready to rise or fall with every heartbeat of the game. The bright lights of the rehearsal room flickered overhead, casting stark shadows on the mirrored walls, and Claire's heart raced, echoing the rhythms of the music thumping in the background. Doubt slithered in like a cold draft. She felt small, exposed under the weight of her own insecurities, her hands trembling as she rehearsed the lines in her mind. But they slipped away like sand through her fingers. "I can't do this," she whispered, the words barely rising above the chatter of the team, her voice a fragile wisp of fear. But Jamie, with his easy confidence, caught her gaze, his smile wide and genuine, like a lighthouse breaking through the fog. "You've got this, Claire. We're all right here with you," he said, stepping closer, his presence warm and grounding. The others gathered, their laughter mingling with encouragement, an electrifying current that surged through her. "Remember the way you nailed that scene last week?" Sarah chimed in, her eyes sparkling with belief. As the team surrounded her, the heaviness of doubt began to lift, replaced by the shimmering thread of camaraderie. The room buzzed with their collective energy, and she inhaled deeply, feeling the warmth of their support. In that moment, Claire realized she wasn't alone. She was part of something greater, a vibrant tapestry woven from shared dreams and unyielding trust. Lila steps onto the pitch, feeling the rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins, the vibrant green of the grass beneath her cleats, a stark contrast to the overcast sky looming above. The scent of fresh-cut turf fills her nostrils, mingling with the faint whiff of rain, promising an electrifying match. Her heart thunders in her chest, each beat syncing with the rhythmic chants of her teammates, their voices rising and falling like the tide. She can feel the weight of their expectations, the palpable energy crackling in the air. It's intoxicating. "You've got this, Lila," calls out Mia from the sidelines, her confidence bolstering Lila's resolve. And in that moment, the world narrows down to just her, the ball and the goal looming at the end of the pitch, the target shimmering in her mind. She adjusts her shin guards, flexes her fingers, and takes a deep breath, the coolness of the impending rain kissing her cheeks. The whistle blows, sharp and piercing, slicing through her concentration like a knife, and with it all her nerves dissolve, replaced by an insatiable desire to play. Lila sprints forward, the thrill of the game igniting her spirit, each stride a declaration of passion, each heartbeat a promise of victory. The whistle blows, sharp and keen, cutting through the anticipation like a knife, and Lila leaps. Her body soaring into the azure sky, the world below shrinking into a quilt of colors. Wind rushes past her, a roaring symphony that fills her ears, mingling with her racing heart, drumming a wild cadence of exhilaration. Below, the ground blurs into a patchwork of greens and browns, but up here, she is weightless, untethered, as if the very air cradles her like a long-lost friend. "Look at her go!" someone shouts from the sidelines, the voice distant yet vibrant against the canvas of her freedom. Lila's laugh bubbles up, the melody that dances with the wind, mingling with the thrill coursing through her veins, every muscle alive, every care forgotten. She twists and turns, spinning gracefully, the sun warming her face, illuminating the exhilaration etched across her features. In that fleeting moment, with clouds brushing her fingertips, she knows she is not just flying, she is alive, a brilliant flash of spirit against the vast expanse of blue, and the world is nothing but a canvas for her dreams. The sun blazed overhead, a relentless orb casting long shadows over the field. As Lila felt the pulse of the game surge through her veins, adrenaline coursing like wildfire, she darted past a cluster of opponents, their shouts and the thunderous beat of countless broomsticks reverberating in her ears. But all at once, the world narrowed to her grip on the quaffle. Just as she prepared to hurl it towards the goal, a blur of crimson swooped past, a beater swinging his bat with a fierce crack that sliced through the air. In a split second, her fingers fumbled, the grip slipping, and the quaffle plummeted from her hands, spinning toward the ground like a fallen star. A collective gasp erupted from the stands, echoing in her ears, drowning out the cheers and jeers. "Lila, no!" Her teammate's voice pierced through the chaos, tinged with disbelief. But she could only watch, frozen, as the ball bounced, then rolled into enemy territory. Her heart sank, a heavy weight pressing against her chest. Heat radiating from her cheeks as she felt the mounting dread of the impending loss, the silence of her own breath drowned out by the wild rush of the game around her. Would she be able to redeem herself? Or was this moment destined to haunt her? The whistle pierced the tension in the air, a sharp exclamation that echoed across the field as the opposing team surged forward, their cleats digging into the grass, each breath a cloud of determination. She could feel her heart racing, the thud of it drowning out the cheers of her own teammates, as if the world had narrowed to this one moment. Her chest tightened, humiliation creeping up like a vine, choking her resolve. The ball spiraled past her, a brilliant streak of white, as the striker unleashed a shot. A perfect arc that seemed to hang in the air, suspended in her disbelief. Time slowed. Every heartbeat stretched out like a taut string, and then, with a brutal thud, it hit the back of the net. Gasps erupted around her, the world tilting as if the ground beneath her was swallowed whole by their victory. Laughter and shouts pierced her, and she sank to her knees, feeling the weight of failure cling to her like the dampness of the grass beneath her. "Get up!" her friend yelled, desperation mingling with hope. But the sting of the moment buried deep in her chest, making it hard to breathe, hard to face the roar of joy from the other side. Each cheer a reminder of her fractured pride. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the muddy field where the girls' soccer game unfolded like a vibrant tapestry of struggle and resilience. Lila stood, momentarily frozen, her breath hitching in her throat as her last miss replayed in her mind, the sharp sting of disappointment dulling the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Shake it off, Lila. Focus on the game," Jamie shouted from the sidelines, her voice cutting through the ambient din of cheers and shouts. The urgency in Jamie's tone ignited something within Lila, a flicker of defiance against the weight of her failure. She could feel the cool breeze tugging playfully at her hair, smell the earthy scent of the grass mixed with the warmth of summer, reminding her of why she loved this game. Lila glanced at Jamie, her friend's face alight with determination. And in that moment, Lila's heart raced anew, her nerves tightening into a coiled spring. "You got this," Jamie urged, her hands gesturing animatedly. And just like that, Lila shook her head, the doubts falling away like autumn leaves, her resolve hardening. She surged forward, a wild energy igniting her every move. The game was on, and victory awaited. The air crackled with tension as Lila sprinted across the field, her heart pounding like a war drum, each beat echoing the collective cries of her teammates. She could taste the sweat on her lips, sharp and salty, mingling with the pungent smell of grass and determination. "Come on, we've got this," she shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos, igniting a spark of urgency in her teammates' eyes. With renewed vigor, they surged forward, a tidal wave of red jerseys and fierce resolve, eyes locked on the prize just a few yards away. Lila felt the cool breeze whip through her hair, a fleeting reminder of the world outside this battleground. But there was no time for distractions. The thud of the ball echoed in her chest, each kick resonating like a battle cry, and as she stole a glance at the scoreboard, the numbers seemed to blur, but the fire in her belly stayed sharp. "Together!" she called out, her voice rising above the din. This was more than a game. It was their moment, their struggle woven into the fabric of the field. The fear of failure faded, replaced by a fierce camaraderie, and Lila knew they would fight until the final whistle, their spirits soaring higher with each heartbeat. Lila's heart raced as she danced along the edge of the field, the sun casting warm golden rays that painted her with a hopeful glow. The air crackled with anticipation, the shouts of teammates and the rhythm of pounding feet echoing in her ears. She watched intently as the opposing player, a hulking figure with a fierce determination in his eyes, prepared to launch a pass. Time slowed. Lila felt the vibrations of the ground beneath her cleats, the pulse of the game synchronizing with her heartbeat. With an instinct honed through countless hours of practice, she darted forward, muscles coiling like a spring. Now or never, she whispered to herself, memories of doubt and struggle flashing behind her eyes. But she pushed them aside. The ball sailed through the air, a blurring comet of opportunity, and in a moment of pure clarity she leaped, stretching her fingertips just enough to intercept the pass. The crowd erupted as she clutched the ball, a surge of adrenaline flooding her veins. "Yes, Lila," her teammate Jenna cheered, her voice a beacon of encouragement. Both exhilaration and disbelief washed over her. She was no longer the girl who hesitated, but a force to be reckoned with. As she sprinted down the field, the world around her faded, leaving only the sweet taste of victory and the promise of what lay ahead. The air crackled with tension as the players took their positions, eyes sharpened like blades, sweat trickling down their brows. The whistle pierced the atmosphere, igniting a flurry of motion, the thud of feet hitting the ground, synchronized like a drum beat. Sasha, with her heart racing, darted past defenders, her breath coming in sharp bursts, the scent of grass and sweat filling her lungs. "We've got this," she shouted. Voice hoarse but determined, her teammates rallying around her like warriors in a battle. With every pass, every leap, the rhythm of their teamwork pulsed through the field, a surge of energy that felt almost tangible. The ball sailed through the air, glinting in the fading sunlight, and time seemed to stretch, each second heavy with possibility. Max, ever the strategist, bellowed directions. "Move left, quick," as he weaved in and out of shadows, his focus unyielding. The crowd erupted, a cacophony of cheers and gasps, every heartbeat synchronizing with the unfolding drama. Suddenly, the opponents surged forward, their numbers overwhelming, yet undeterred, the team rallied, a wall of resolve forming at the goal, eyes locked as if to say, "We stand strong together." The intensity hummed in the air, a vivid tapestry of perseverance woven into every frantic moment. The whistle blew, sharp and piercing, slicing through the air thick with anticipation. As Lila sprinted down the field, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The smell of fresh-cut grass mingled with the sweet tang of adrenaline, electrifying her senses. She saw her teammate Mia cutting past two defenders, the girl's dark ponytail whipping behind her like a banner of hope. And without a moment's hesitation, Lila called out, "Mia, here!" The ball sailed through the air, a perfect arc of promise, landing at her feet with a soft thud. She could feel the weight of the moment, the eyes of her teammates and the crowd rooting for her, and in that instant, everything melted away. Her doubts, her fears. With a deep breath, she steadied herself, glanced up at the goal, and with a swift, practiced kick, sent the ball soaring past the outstretched hands of the goalkeeper. Time seemed to freeze as it nestled into the corner of the net, the sound of the ball hitting the back reverberating like a chorus of triumph. Cheers erupted around her, a wave of joy crashing over her. "That's it, Lila," Mia shouted, her face beaming with pride, and Lila couldn't help but grin, the taste of victory sweet and exhilarating, propelling them all into a whirlwind of celebration.